If you were going to remake Treasure of the Sierra Madre today, you'd make it about cryptocurrency and Kalshi and like polymarket bets. Hello, and welcome to Expected Own Goals Playoffs Edition, and also a message from Evan Davis.
And I am Evan Davis. Thank you for joining us today. If you are not yet a member of our Patreon, we would highly encourage you to do so. It's the best way to support us and support the show. So there is a link in the show notes where you can sign up for as little as $6 a month, which gets you 4 exclusive bonus episodes, gets you access to our discounts for merch and Discord access and a ton of other cool features. An extra $4 gets you our cultured number 10 tier, where you get an extra monthly bonus episode called XOG After Dark. We spilled some tea this month, which a lot of people appear to want to hear, given the number of upgraded memberships I have seen in the last several days. So if you want to hear what that tea is, go ahead and sign up for our cultured number 10 tier. Again, click the link in the show notes to sign up today.
Are you familiar with the playoffs crash out from Jim Mora, the NFL coach?
I am not.
It's like one of the great meltdowns in sports press conference history. Yeah, he just loses his mind at the word playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens about this far into an NFL season, and so it feels appropriate that today's episode is looking ahead at what might be the playoffs.
Well, yeah, last week we checked in since everybody had then played at least half their season, who had been underperforming and overperforming, and now everybody is over the halfway line. So now we are officially in the stretch run, if you use the broadest definition of the term. Things are starting to coalesce. And we mentioned on another show that Maura Sheridan on a broadcast mentioned that every year a team who isn't already in the playoff mix after the international break ends up breaking through. And that actually doesn't happen. It's only happened once. And that was Angel City in 2023. So around this time, the playoff picture is maybe a little bit more solid. Now, teams move within that grouping. But if you are not above the playoff line at around this point in recent NWSL history, you're almost guaranteed not to go to the playoffs. Now,
you're in some trouble. Yeah.
What could throw that into a bit of disarray this year? Well, we've got a couple of expansion teams, but it's not just that we have a couple of expansion teams. It's that we have the longest regular season in professional women's soccer history, a 30-game campaign. And so what will the extra, minutes on everybody's legs do when we go into the real dark territory of September and October? It could throw some things out of whack. It's not as if roster size and the salary cap has kept up with that dimension of the game. A maximum 26 player roster and only $3.7 million to spend means that you're going to put a lot of wear and tear on the bodies who are available to you. So how does a 30-game season play into that?
Well, lots of teams are barely at the roster minimum right now.
They sure are.
I'm looking at you, Angel City, who picked up Jenny Imathune from Portland for a song.
Mm-hmm.
And probably a dance.
And if we're looking on points per game, Angel City is right above the playoff line at the moment. So do you want to hit anything from the action over the weekend before we dive in?
Yeah. First off, I love that Cece Delzer listened to the pod and was like, you're right, I probably am due 2 goals at least.
Wait a second, what? This is news to me.
No, she didn't really. I'm just joking that one of the will come good on the performances players. I have no idea whether she did or didn't, but I love the idea that Cece Delzer heard us talk last week and was just like, I'm grabbing a brace. You goddamn right I'm due. And put up, along with the rest of the Utah team, one of the most impressive attacking performances of the season by any team.
It also is it's also a great encapsulation of what Portland is as an attacking unit. A lot of focus has been on how dicey their defense has been, and it's true.
Yeah,
Mackenzie Arnold's shot stopping has bailed them out of a lot of jams. Oddly enough, their attack isn't particularly impressive either. And the way that Portland's attack, it's sort of platonic ideal in 2026 is Sophia Wilson does Sophia Wilson shit, and then nobody else can back that up. Which is, what that goal in 45 seconds into the game or something?
34th.
Yeah.
34th second.
Like an outrageous high quality chance of extraordinary skill from one of the two best or three best attackers in the league, and then fucking bupkis.
As I talked about with a friend of the pod, Jill Lloyden, Sophia Wilson executing one of the biggest misses you've ever seen. So almost all of the XG in that game for Portland was created on basically two Wilson generated breakaways, the harder of which she scored and the easier of which she rounded the keeper and executed. I don't know what the ASA stat correction on it is, but at the time it was an Opta 0.89 miss, which is really something.
Yeah, the ASA model put it around like 0.49. So pretty big.
I don't know how they're getting
difference.
to that with an open net.
I make of it what you will.
No. I mean, like, models will do what models will do. I will tell you that I think if you give Sophia Wilson that chance 10 times, she's not making only 5 of them. And it was stunning. On the broadcast, Lloyden compares it to the Aissata Traore miss. And both have received stat corrections, but both were sort of the initial miss was like so gaudy. It was unbelievable. But I also think that like Portland didn't generate a ton otherwise. And the problem that they run into in attack is, well, they have all of these really great and dynamic pieces, particularly in, Torden, Moultrie as supplemental to Wilson and Raylan Turner, who we discussed also, but was out, is that there's not really a plan to get them the ball, which is the primary issue. Like, they're okay in the final third. It's getting the ball to the final third that they're also not very good at.
Yeah.
Beyond breaking lines and going over the top. So I feel like they got exposed for the sort of predictable team that they are in a bunch of ways against Utah. But that was really just the bill coming due more than anything else.
It's not even the biggest blowout. Like, if you make all the necessary adjustments for like game state and home field advantage and, everything else, quality of opponent, like it's maybe like it's a significant blowout, but it's not like the craziest blowout. The craziest blowout of the season is what North Carolina did to Orlando on Friday.
Yeah, that was a battering. It's funny because I think if you felt like Orlando had it figured out, or at least was like going to be fine offensively from their prior week's fixture against Chicago, where they put up 2.6 XG in the first half without conceding, you should be reminded that it's Chicago, folks, and North Carolina, a real varsity team, really, I think, exorcised some demons against Orlando, and Orlando was who they are without Barbara Bando, which is a team that really struggles to generate almost anything.
But it's not just their attack. I mean, the thing that Orlando...
No, their defense is break, don't bend.
Well, and this is the thing that has allowed Orlando to survive much of this season.
Of many seasons, yeah.
Yeah, and so, granted, like, Haley Mace only got into the game as a sub, so were she, like, lined up next to Raffaele, like, for the whole time? Does this look a little bit different? But, Orlando pushed their lines, like, pretty high, and Marta was also like dropping back into the midfield pretty deep. And when Marta is asked to cover ground now, there is real danger of getting exposed. And so it was just a very disjointed defensive performance. I mean, like, how were North Carolina going to survive without Manaka Matsukuba? Oh, right. Yeah. Like, if your defense is going to give Evelyn EJ that kind of space to get into the positions that she likes to get into, that's what's going to happen. It was a remarkable attacking performance from her.
Evelyn EJ missed her biggest chance of the game and still created, again, this is not to criticize Wilson from the prior game or Aissata Traore or Evelyn EJ for missing big chances. It is great to get big chances. Evelyn EJ in this instance ended up, I think, with her first 4 shots, 3 of them going in, missing her highest XG chance, and still with an XG over those 4 shots of 2 point something.
Yeah.
So it was just quality chance on quality chance on quality chance on quality chance. And as is the same, with Portland, Orlando's defense just coughing them up nonstop and allowing Evelyn EJ to sort of have her day.
Tony Gustafsson must be salivating at the idea of EJ leading the line at the World Cup next year.
Yeah, I mean, she should be.
It's incredible.
She was another player that earlier in the season when we were talking about underperformers or people who we expected to sort of positively regress, Evelyn EJ was it, and she did almost immediately, and now
real hard.
And now she's in the Golden Boot discussion, which is not unreasonable. Evelyn EJ is now, at least according to G+, one of the better strikers in the league at this point.
Yeah, it's amazing. So those are the blowouts. Nobody else managed to put up a winning score line of greater than a goal.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a goal fest between Bay and Seattle, but super sub Welsh Dragon Jess Fishlock came on to settle that. But at what cost?
The hamstring. To be fair, nothing says 40th birthday quite like being good for one sprint. Yeah, and having to call it a day.
How dare you? She's 39.
No, I know it's impending, but like I felt very. My heart went out to Jess Fishlock because I think a lung-busting run to put your team on top of a game that, is really important for their playoff hunt, and doing it at the cost of your hamstring is wild.
Well, especially because it was essentially the first thing she did.
Yeah, it was the first handful of touches.
Yeah.
And it was also the first handful of moments that Abby Dahlkemper was really tested after her return.
Right.
So it was
age on age.
Age on age right there.
Well, and it's also, Fishlock does not have the type of mentality where she's going to take her foot off the gas. And like basically mere seconds after finishing the celebrations, all of a sudden she started grabbing her right hamstring.
It was like a James Brown act. Like
Seattle
dancing.
No. Because James Brown always manages to get resurrected.
Meanwhile, without the resurrection, correct.
Meanwhile, Seattle had used up all their sub windows, so they couldn't take her off.
It's funny because I want to compliment sort of the evolution of the Seattle Reign in this episode, and we'll get there when we start talking about the playoffs. But a team that had looked previously dead and gone is not, and it's because they have some like kind of interesting attacking weapons. Maddie Darlene is having a great season.
Yeah, we talked about Maddie Mercado before.
Yeah. These pieces are the youth movement that we've been waiting on for so long is starting to show signs of life. I mean, Seattle is still a deeply flawed team, but in the past couple of weeks, their offense, maybe there's a little overperformance, but like their offense is starting to look like an offense, which is not something you've been able to say in Seattle for years.
Yeah, I mean, they got blown out in the 2 games previous to this. Today, or over the weekend, it's arguably their best attacking performance all year, even though they conceded 2 goals, Yeah. I mean, it was a weird game from Bay. Friend of the pod, OG listener, OG fan, Katie pointed out, like, Bay put up like 1.1 XG, but only managed to generate like 0.1 offensive G+. How is that possible?
It's crazy.
And she's right to point that out. It's extremely rare. But when it happens, usually what that means is you got dispossessed in your own defensive third, and then a high XG chance from the opposition came as a result. And that is how Seattle scored a couple of their goals.
I was about to say, it is literally like the version of Seattle that is emerging, one that presses well, had themselves a day. And I don't think any amount of Jenna Niswanger is going to solve the ability to possess out of the back.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so, knowing her skill set.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think of that move? I'm fine with it.
I think it's fine. I mean, the transfer fee was like a couple $100K?
$200K. Or around $200K as Jeff Kassouf reported.
Yeah, I think that's fine. You need fullback depth right now. That's a pretty reasonable piece to go grab. I'm sure Niswanger's thrilled that she's actually going to have minutes for a change. But if you were looking for someone who is like going to be like a lockdown defensive fullback, that might not be coming your way.
No, but if you're looking for somebody to dribble you out of trouble or possibly into trouble, Jenna Niswanger might just be the ticket. I like the deal. I also think it's interesting just like what $200K buys you now as opposed to 2 years ago. I mean, we've talked about the sort of like the market inflation of it, but I said this on the Discord and I'm curious what you think about it. It's like Jenna Niswanger went to Arsenal for what, $100K, somewhere between 100 and 150K, as I remember it. Yeah. and is coming back for 200K 2 years later. And while that's not a loss on paper for Arsenal, like the balance sheet does not reflect it, that is what 150K bought you in 2024 versus what it buys you now.
Completely.
Very different.
Yeah. No question about it.
Yeah. But who was what is she coming in to replace Sydney Collins or Maddie Moreau? Yeah, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Washington, San Diego, don't know how much you can really say about either of those clubs, given that they were playing in a monsoon.
I think you can say that Washington's tired.
Yeah,
that's
correct. They are exhausted.
Friend of the pod, Ariana Cascone, just sort of pointed it out, like all the games they played over the past calendar month. And I saw that it was reposted both by Haley Carter and Jordan Small with very different tones of like, yeah, it's been a hard month, basically. And so was Washington due this kind of result? Yeah, maybe. But also, what are you going to do? You're playing in a monsoon and you still only, I mean, I think it's Washington's defense that's like very still impressive to me. Like you're dead on your legs and you still didn't give up a full XG to one of the better teams in this league, even if you didn't generate much.
Yeah, I mean, the ASA model puts it a little bit higher, says that it's about 1.2 XG that they conceded, between each model, make of it whatever you will. But yeah, I mean, they're tired. Simple as that. So just combine the fatigue with the conditions and the fact that they're playing the best team in the league, then shit can go a little sideways. But I don't think it's any sort of referendum on like who they are more broadly.
No.
Also,
and San Diego
they're missing Kwasi, they're missing Monday, they're missing Abiodun. So like their depth is also taking a hit kind of at the wrong time.
Yeah, that's right. And San Diego's good.
Yeah. The other team that has kind of played the same amount of time in that same window actually is looking quite sharp, i.e. Gotham. And it was only a 1-0 on the road over Houston, but like the performance was much better than that. And more broadly, like I would say that this week in particular, but generally their performances over the last month and other teams sort of taking a step back is putting Gotham in kind of like excellent position all of a sudden to be a top 4 side. I mean, on points, they are a
top 4 side. Like,
but I mean, on performance, something that can actually be sustained. Like they are right in the mix with, Kansas City and Washington and North Carolina. Whereas it seemed like maybe they were like a touch behind. Now they are very much like solid top 4 without question.
They've been very good. They play and did against Houston as well, a sort of low variance style. They did not allow very much. They did not create a ton. Sam Kerr is making a very real difference in what they're able to do in attack. Jordan Dudley is having a rookie of the year campaign. And so that individual talent is able to sort of carry you over the threshold to a lot of 1-0s. I mean, that team loves a 1-0 like nobody loves a 1-0. It's truly remarkable. And I'm looking forward to what I think is like not what we would have identified as one of the matches of the season, but Gotham San Diego this Friday is a big fixture between two very good teams.
Yeah, for sure.
And Gotham gets that at home. So I'm fascinated to see sort of what becomes of that. What else do we have? Do we have
I mean, I don't know what else. I don't know. There's not really much to say, I don't think, about any of the other contests. Like, I mean,
I think you can talk about the diminished Kansas City Current not playing particularly well against Angel City, still probably better, but they're diminished. That team without Temwa Chwenga and Michelle Cooper is not that good.
Yeah,
it's not that bad.
They had a great game. They had a great game midweek without their front line. So.
I mean, they had a great game midweek against, Louisville.
Yeah, but even adjusting for the quality of the opponent, they still like very comfortably blew them out. Like it's one of those things where sometimes we forget it's not just how you perform against good teams, but also just how hard you hammer bad teams.
I mean, sure, for your underlying numbers, but 3 points is 3 points is 3 points. And
well, you're saying, are they good or not? Like 3 points doesn't tell you if they're good or not.
They're a team that I think their underlying numbers overstate for me their quality.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's just true.
Well, it's true for you.
I think that without Michelle Cooper and Temwa Chawinga, they are a much more vulnerable team, as any team would be without those players. But like, like Croy Bethune is having the season of seasons, but she alone can't solve this problem. And I genuinely I don't know. I think that like, yeah, you beat up a Louisville team that pays peanuts to their players and who are also traveling for their second game of the week. So fine, it's a blowout. I kind of feel like Louisville a little bit threw in the towel for that one. And one dominant Kansas City Current performance doesn't change the fact that against better opposition, they've often looked like not particularly impressive or like not like the dominant team that the underlying numbers suggest that they are. In this game, they gave up a great goal to Taylor Suarez. I also want to compliment, maybe Ali Sentner listens. I want to compliment Ali Sentner on one of her best games as a professional, as far as I was concerned. Her movement was incredible, excellent. And she took 0 shots from outside the box all day while generating, I think, a pretty, like, in a game where Angel City didn't generate a lot. She created the goal with an off-ball run that created the path for Taylor Suarez, and more than that, like was a chance creator. I think she ended up with 3 or so. I think she created one, what we would call quality chance throughout the game. But that's like, honestly, a material improvement from her.
I'm sure that the 7 from outside the box game from just a week before was a real come to Jesus moment.
One would hope.
Denver, Boston, great to see a goalkeeper assist, 4th in league history. Less great to see Bianca St. George once again conceding a penalty.
I mean, Bianca St. George is just, she's working on her personal brand, and that brand is really strong.
Apparently so.
Yeah, I think that I'm sure that Denver feels deeply frustrated with that result. I mean, they gave up a goal that no defense should concede. Granted, Casey Murphy kicked the snot out of that ball. It had like 70 yards in the air plus to get to Sammy Smith, who needed to do little more than pass the ball with her left foot past Abby Smith. You know who hates conceding a goalkeeper assist? The other goalkeeper, because it means your defense thoroughly abandoned you. Though both teams would resent the statement, Expansion Bowl showed that these teams are like both not terrible and both like sort of at similar evolutionary steps along the way, like both with a lot to figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Louisville beat Chicago, whatever.
I personally loved that game. The heavens opened up after Jordan Bloomer let in that horrendous long range shot.
Yeah.
And it had like the sort of like the 2 most punished teams in the league biblical quality. I mean, obviously Louisville like blew the shit out of Chicago, which is a deeply depressing statement if you're a Chicago Stars fan. Evan, if you were going to fix the Chicago Stars, give me 3 moves or 2 moves that you would make right now.
It's not possible to do it in that few moves. There's just too much going on.
No. To just make them, like, if you're going to try to make them materially better right now.
I don't know, spend a couple million to get Naomi Girma and, I don't know, some midfielder that can also just, like, gum up the works, They are so rapidly on pace to be the worst team in league history.
And honestly, that's what I thought that they would be at the beginning of this season.
Certainly thought it was a reasonable possibility.
Yeah. Do they have they won the XG battle in any game this year?
I can check.
Because I think that's a legitimate question.
Let's see. If we're going by our fancy schmancy opponent quality game state adjusted version, once, July 4th weekend. Their 3-2 win over Utah, they had a plus 0.3 non-penalty XG differential once you adjust for all of the necessary incidentals.
That's 1 in 17 games that they've been the quote-unquote deserved winner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, like
That's
the people
brutal.
of Chicago deserve better than this.
No shit. So as we transition to our playoff line discussion, we can very quickly eliminate them from possibly making a
We
run.
can take out both of those teams from the conversation for very different reasons, but both of those teams from, like I think Louisville, like if they wanted to spend the money, probably have enough pieces to and probably have enough cap room to like fix this team with some real financial commitment. Chicago have no such possibility available to them at this point. But yeah, let's begin the state of the playoffs as we, round into the home stretch. And we can start by eliminating Chicago and Louisville. Anybody else you want to take out of the conversation right now?
Yeah, Houston and Bay.
Yeah, I think that obviously looking at the table as is, it's not like mathematically impossible to take Houston and Bay out of this. But their performances just don't justify like a serious handling of that. Could both teams like catch some real bounces and make the playoffs? Yeah, mathematically, absolutely. Being, 5 points and 4 points off of the playoff line as it stands. Sure. But it would require that. Those are also not good teams.
Yeah. And like, is Bay more broadly better now than they were in the first half where they were really letting teams run all over them? Yeah, sure. And they've got enough points on the board where they could still potentially be in the mix. So Rachel Kunananji comes back from WAFCON. And, I'll say this, like if of those two teams, one were to really make a push for the playoffs, it would be Bay. But I think they're just too deep in the hole because again, it's not just about how they do. It's about how everybody right above them does. And everybody right above them, despite Bay's improvements over the last few weeks, is better than them.
And what do these teams have in common? Well, if you played ASA's new game, Road to 75, you would know that Jane Campbell and Jordan Silkowitz currently is recording the greatest season in goalkeeping history, according to G+. And Jane Campbell is not far behind her. So I think we can expect some of those numbers to come a little bit down to earth. And any amount of goalkeeper regression for either of those two teams is a death nail.
Yeah, you don't even need like legitimate regression. It just could be a patch of bad luck, which they haven't really had yet.
Frankly, it could just be bang average goalkeeping.
Right.
And that would be a problem. Between the two of them, who would I be less surprised to make the jump? It would definitely be Bay. It helps when you're not starting Girelli all the time to create offense. An attack that has some combination of a good Rachel Kundananji, a good version of her, plus Alex Pfeiffer, plus Kennedy Fuller, plus Hannah Bibar, plus like a sometimes productive and quite fast Carly Lima. Yeah, there's like Claire Hutton. You can sort of see what like Bay 2027 or 2028 might look like and be quite threatening, but it isn't Bay 2026 yet.
The other team in the mix, at least in terms of their points level, is Boston, who we've often sung their praises because their defense, despite their foul-happy nature, is really quite solid. But there's one big problem that Boston has if they are going to try and do this, which feels to me pretty insurmountable.
I would describe it as providential. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. They have the toughest schedule for the rest of the year of any team.
It's really just road games.
A lot of it is road games because they've been treated to a bunch of front-loaded home matches due to World Cup stuff and Foxborough and having Centennial Stadium being available in Pawtucket. Now they got to go on the road. And they have been a good team. I mean, they haven't been a great team, but they have been like, they've kept their XG differential. Once you make all your adjustments above, they've kept that above water, but not so much so that you would say like they've got the underlying talent to push back all of the like historical obstacles that we have found of teams who are below the playoff line at this point. And if they got to play most of those games away, I don't think they've got it. But, they still want to make the playoffs and good for them. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Let's also like make it very, very clear. We are projecting that the playoff line is probably going to be 42 points for a 30-game season. That's been pretty consistent going back to our preseason projections of like where the line between 8th and 9th place has landed, and that hasn't really changed.
Mm-hmm.
What are they on? 1.1 times 18. Yeah, they're on 20 points right now, which means they got to pick up 22 points in the next 12 games.
Yeah, it's tough. And again, 4 of their last 5 fixtures are on the road. They have a Pacific Northwest swing, and then they close the season out with a Southern California swing. So San Diego and Angel City. Look, if they're in the mix for the final game of the season against Angel City might actually be really interesting, but that's going to require a lot of defensive solidity and then getting bounces going your way.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're like the last team that I'd say I feel like is definitely outside this.
Yeah. Again, it's just too big of a gap to make up with too many difficult hurdles to jump over.
Orlando's kind of next on the outside looking in. This is sort of when like the playoff line discussion really does begin in earnest. They have like a pretty neutral schedule ahead. Orlando right now is pegged by both the ASA and Larner Elo model for 39 points.
Yeah.
And
that's 3 points away from the projected playoff line. So all of a sudden now we're in the zone of like a couple of things break right, this could happen. But if a couple of things break wrong, and Orlando has probably the thinnest margin for error here, then we're not talking about them as like a contender at all.
Yeah, that's right, at all. And I think that we really need to like emphasize how Barbara Banda pilled that team is. like they just do not have a lot of Barbara Banda's position weighted net G plus is 0.31. It's another all-time great season from her.
Yeah.
Beyond that, almost the entirety of their defense, beyond Rafaela, is like neutral to bad. And outside of Solai Washington, they don't really have anything else creative working in a meaningful way. And so like a loss of Banda probably diminishes the output of the rest of the attack.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've highlighted it on a couple of episodes before, like almost 45% of the XG generated relative to availability is made by Banda, which is just like an outrageous sum for a team to rely so heavily on one player. That just doesn't happen very often. So if that is going to continue to be the case, and she is not available for more than just the WAFCON period, I do not know how this team scores goals.
Yeah, get her a cryo chamber, get her a dietitian, do whatever it takes to keep Barbara Banda in peak condition, because that is the only path forward for Orlando sneaking into the playoffs. It's as lopsided a roster in terms of output as exists in this league.
So now let's get into...
For me, they're probably out.
I think that's true, especially because of just how severely not only they've been beaten, but just all the points they've been dropping of late. You know, they're not going to have Barbara Banda for another couple of weeks. Like, I don't see that changing at all. So now we get to the group where I think there are real questions to be asked of like, who actually has the better chance? Seattle, Angel City, Denver, who are all roughly equal on points per game. Seattle and LA are dead equal, tied for 8th place at the moment on points per game. And projected somewhere between 40 and 43 points. Our model thinks it's going to be Seattle of that three who will make the leap, but
with very low confidence.
Pretty low confidence. And also, I mean, of that group, once we look at strength of schedule and game state adjusted XG, Seattle has been very comfortably the worst team on performances up to this point of those three.
Yeah, I think for me, let's start by saying top down, Gotham, Washington, San Diego, Utah, and probably both Kansas City and Portland. You really have nothing to worry about if the ambition is to make the playoffs. If you want to talk about who's competing for top 4, it does feel like right now, at least, Gotham and Washington have meaningfully separated, and San Diego is very good and has a reasonable schedule out the rest of the season. So those feel like a top 3 to me. And then Utah is just good. I mean, who grabs your 4 seed right now? Is it Kansas City?
Yeah,
sort of putting it together.
It's Kansas City followed by Utah. But again, like our projection model, averaging the two models together, have both of those teams finishing on 50 points. So if it's Utah in the 4th spot and KC in 5th spot, like it wouldn't shock me. Oh, and by the way, Portland's projected for 49 because despite them not being very good, they have the softest schedule of any team going forward, and they've banked a lot of points already.
Yeah, I have no doubt that they have the capacity to play down to opponents. We have seen them do it. I also think that they just have, and this has been the case all season, no matter what Robert Villahamon does, they just have too much offensive firepower to miss the playoffs in a league where 8 of the 16 teams make the playoffs. If this were a league where only the top 4 were going in, I'd say Portland was in real trouble. Yeah, and with Kansas City, they really need Temwa to not come back from WAFCON injured. Without Temwa, that would also be a problem. But unlike Orlando, they do actually have some secondary depth, and they have Kroy Bethune having an all-timer. But yeah, so I think all of those teams we can sort of put in the safe camp. So yeah, if any team were to fall into this group, it would probably be Portland.
You mean fall up?
No. Fall down to, as we're talking about, into the middle, into the actual playoff line discussion.
I see. Yeah. So that's true. I mean, North Carolina is playing like a top 4 side at the moment, but they've just dropped some points at times where maybe they didn't deserve to, other times where they very much did deserve to. But that's put them behind the 8 ball a little bit. And they've got the second hardest schedule going forward just after Boston. And so we're projecting them for 45 points in 7th place, which is a meaningful gap between them and the 49-point Portland projection. So North Carolina, if they play to their level right now, even after accounting for the strength of schedule, should be safe. And if I were to put any bets between Portland and North Carolina to remain safe, I'd put it on the Courage. It's just that like they've got a few points to make up, and they have a couple extra games in hand, which means they're going to play more in the next 3 months than some other teams.
Yeah, one of the things that makes Portland's schedule really soft is they got all of their midweek games out of the way in the first half of the season.
Yeah,
and so they are only playing weekends. That is not true for North Carolina moving forward.
Yeah. So, and by the way, that also goes for Gotham, Washington, San Diego, Utah, Kansas City. Like, they're all done with having to deal with midweek hassles. Whereas, North Carolina, Seattle, Angel City, and Denver all have 16 games remaining. They are the 4 teams that have to, manage those minutes without a lot of bodies available to do it. So, I still lean North Carolina because some of the questions about how you operate without Manaka are being answered.
Yeah, I mean, Ashley Sanchez, on the face of it, is not putting up the elite position-weighted net G+ that wins you an MVP. But, for, the narrative-y grit and determination, dragging a team, kicking and screaming into the playoffs, she is doing a version of that. And, she probably will end up on one of our 2 best 11s at the end of this season when we talk about it, because, she's just been really, really good. That said, she has significantly more talent around her than a lot of these other teams that we're going to discuss, whether it be the emerging Evelyn Ija or just Riley Jackson having herself a nice little season. I think that this is a team that just is better built, whether you want to put, extra faith into a coach. I think Mock Lind has had a really clear sense of how he's wanted this team to play, and they've played it the whole way, which is a more progressive, more attacking style. And it seems like now that Manaka is gone, they're not really decommitting, which is either brave or bold or dumb.
Well, he's got the personnel for it. Whereas the Sean Nahas, Kurt Johnson approach was never to actually go out and buy attacking depth on the market.
So, I mean, they bought Jaden Shaw, but your point stands.
Yeah, and also they used Jaden Shaw.
They did dick with it.
Yeah, they used Jaden Shaw very poorly, whereas between Sanchez and EJ, they naturally complement each other, because Shaw's never just the in the box, off the shoulder, in behind number 9, whereas that's what EJ is doing and is combining so effortlessly with everything that Sanchez is doing. And so what's funny is also if you want to knock Portland's projection a little bit, you could also do that simply because I am accounting for what I presume to be increased minutes going forward for Morgan Weaver. And we know that the ASA model really puts a lot of stock into individual attacking performances. And so having Sophia Wilson and Morgan Weaver on the field together probably makes that projection more aggressive than it will be in reality. So pulling that a little bit closer and bumping North Carolina maybe a little bit higher. Yeah. I mean, if North Carolina finishes 6th, that feels totally in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I think that what the ASA model doesn't know is that Morgan Weaver is recovering from an injury. It just knows what Morgan Weaver is as a player.
Yeah, and like again, I've been very, very meticulous, especially considering WAFCON and other like high profile starting 11 injuries to other players, where like I'm essentially going game by game and changing the lineup based on when I think players will be available. And so like Weaver, I don't have entering the starting 11 for like another 3 or 4 weeks. But
yeah, I think that's right.
Even so, her impact is just so massive when she's on her game that the projection model just really loves that. 12 games to play. It feels more realistic. Like Portland will still squeak out a 5th or 6th place finish, but North Carolina is just playing so well that I think they could overcome them.
If Portland have Kaya Hanks coming back, which will also be a positive theoretically. She has been behind Morgan Weaver in terms of recovery timelines, but adding a Kaya Hanks in September and October would be another nice feather in their cap. And I think the other thing I want to give a little grace to is, well, she did not look the part against Utah. If they've even broken even with a neutral midfielder in Nina Neistad, that will be a meaningful improvement, or that will be meaningful depth for their team moving forward. I shared something from our account, just sort of, like Portland's 6 primary defenders all have negative net position weighted net G pluses. And I just shared them blind because it's like you pick. Any of these 6 is like a problem. So it's really a question, I think, for Portland. This defense feels like a problem, but if they can improve their goal scoring with their returning figures and find even just a little bit of stability, and if, assuming Mackenzie Arnold doesn't completely collapse down the stretch, I still think that the points in hand are a real favor for them in the schedule as well.
Yeah.
For North Carolina, they could benefit from like Kalen Sheridan just playing like any version of Kalen Sheridan we've known before. Like that would materially improve them. But yeah, those 2 teams are playoff teams. I don't know in what order, but they feel like playoff teams to me. So let's get into the teams that are competing now theoretically for that 8th spot.
Right now, Seattle is the one we have projected to make it over, and I think that just comes down to the schedule again. They've got the 3rd softest schedule going forward, even though they have a couple of games in hand, so they have more soccer to play. But it's really incredible, like once you strip out quality of opponent and game state and everything else to their XG, just how much worse they've been compared to Angel City and Denver. Like it's like they're playing like Bay or Houston rather than a team that could actually like make the playoffs. And a big emphatic win at the weekend is keeping their points total realistic for them to do it. But my God, on the whole, they've just been very bad, even with Maddie Mercado and Maddie Darling doing what they've been doing.
Yeah, and Claudia Dickey having like a perfectly fine season, and Sally Menti, it's really a question of like, great that Jess Fishlock came back and grabbed a winner. Bad if Jess Fishlock is out for another 6 weeks because she's done her hamstring. This team with a productive Jess Fishlock, I think I'd have more confidence in. I mean, we know their deficiencies. It really is just a matter of like, are they going to go into games against teams that they should grab results from and grab results? And they don't have that quality on their roster that all the way through that suggests to me like that's clearly a yes. But you look at their next 3 games and like it's Angel City and Chicago and Louisville. And so like they have a 6-pointer at this weekend and then 2 games that they need 6 points from, and that gets us to sort of late August. We'll know a lot about who this team is by the end of August by what they've done in these fixtures, many of which they will need to grab very serious points from.
Yeah, we will know whether their playoff push actually is legitimate because they've picked up points against teams they're supposed to. I don't know if it'll prove like who they are in terms of quality necessarily.
But like their that strength of schedule will stop looking as good come September. This is the feasting time for them, and they need to make something of it.
And they can, again, because of the way that Mercado and Dickey has played, there's no reason not to assume that like 7 to 9 points are available to them for the rest of the month. But make no mistake, they have to get at least 7 points from those 3 games.
And if they don't, they've made it a lot harder for themselves. A thing the Seattle Reign are accustomed to doing, to be fair, and still figuring a way out of it. But I know where sort of the Larner model sees it and where ASA sees it. They're probably not my pick to get in just on talent or form.
Well, but the Larner model thinks that by a point, Angel City will beat them out.
Yeah, I kind of think that's right.
Yeah, again, on talent up to now, stripping all of the noise out, Angel City has been the best team of these 3. I mean, it's a coin flip really between Angel City and Denver, but Angel City has just a bit of an edge, both on the adjusted XG and also on X points and on raw points per game for that matter. And they've picked up good results under Leif Smeerud in the last few weeks, generally speaking. Getting a draw against Kansas City on the road is a big deal. Like, they've done everything that they've probably had to do. And by the way, I include the time where they were being managed by Alex Strauss in that. What does Angel City have to overcome? It's the schedule. It's just going to be very, very difficult because they played the fewest midweek games in the first half of the year. So they've got a couple of midweek games they'll have to make up, not to mention just generally having 2 games in hand relative to other teams. And they're on the road a lot. And they're not playing easy sides, you know. It's like 10 games against 5 opponents in the second half of the year for them.
Yeah, again, their August is one that, like, by September 1st, we'll know a lot more about Angel City's prospects because they have Seattle away, followed by Washington at home, followed by Gotham at home, followed by North Carolina away and Boston away. And, like...
That's smart. That's a hard run.
Yeah, that is your 2 home games in that run are against probably 2 of the best teams in the league, if not the 2 best teams in the league, is really bad. That you have 5 games between now and the end of August with a cross-country trip being a part of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really challenging. Things soften up a bit in September, but they still have Gotham and Washington away at the end of September, beginning of October. It's not what you want.
No, and one of those road games against a hard team is going to be a midweek fixture. So like the final week of August, they've got, that's the Gotham game at home, and then it's North Carolina midweek on the road, and then it's Boston on the road. And like Boston is probably the game where you can pick up the most points, but Boston makes visiting teams' lives hell. So like where are the 6 points or the 7 points in that little run? That's hard because Angel City hasn't had to deal with like 2 road games in the span of 4 days all season yet.
If Seattle's upcoming schedule is a 6-pointer followed by 2 games where they need to get 6 points, Angel City's is a 6-pointer against Seattle followed by 2 games in which no one expects them to get any points. And that will make the table look different in a couple of weeks. I still think that, like, talent-wise, God, it's really close.
Well, it's just like, how much do you weight each of these factors, right? Because like Seattle is by far the worst team, but they have by far the easiest schedule. Angel City, it's the reverse. They are the strongest team with the toughest schedule. So like, what wins out in the end, especially when our projection separates them by 2 points total?
Yeah, it really is just, and this is where like low confidence on the 8 seed, it will come down to really getting results and just bounce of the ball. I mean, like,
no, it's the luck part that will be the difference maker.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, getting results regardless of how they come to you. That ball that clips the crossbar instead of sliding under the crossbar.
Yeah, but that's hard to predict. Yeah, especially given like where Angel City is. They've got 22 players roster right now. They're carrying the minimum. I think even after the Jenny Amathune pickup.
I think the Jenny Amathune peak got them back to compliant.
Yeah. Well, 22 is compliant, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think that is what got them from 21 to 22.
Oh, yeah. So like Jenny Imethun is an interesting prospect. And the 6, I mean, if you're not convinced that Neely Martin can start more games, like maybe you believe that you need more depth in defensive midfield. But like, I don't know if that was like the first place I would go looking to bolster the squad.
I think it was what was available.
I mean, sure.
Do we have any update? Because at the weekend, Sfeindis went off
with a pretty bad looking ankle injury, but I have not heard of an update as to her status. And that is a big question. That could swing our predictions completely.
Yeah, this is my issue here, which is Sfeindis goes down with the kind of injury that looks terrible on replay, but also ankle sprain. It's an outside ankle sprain, almost certainly, just given the way her foot rolled.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the grade of that, she could be back in 2 weeks or she could be not back. And she walked off the field, which does not tell you anything with an ankle sprain.
Right.
It looked genuinely awful, and she is the most important attacking node.
And I baked in some of that to the ASA projection, where I think I took her out for the next 3 games, I think, and then like included her as a sub for a couple games after that. And wouldn't you know it, there's a 4-point gap in the ASA model between them and Seattle, rather than the 1-point gap with them on top in the Lerner model, which doesn't have any knowledge of like what lineups are going to look like game to game. So it is going to be a very big swing of momentum, as it were, if Sfeindis is going to be out for an extended period of time.
If Sfeindis meets your expectation for injury, yeah, it's a toss-up. If Sfeindis is out for the rest of the season or is out for close to the rest of the season, I think you suddenly say that like whatever talent or performance advantage Angel City has evaporated. And I think that brings us to Denver, which is the most idiosyncratic case to make here, because it's relying on stuff that, I mean, I think it really just comes down to relying on Denver's historical across all sport, natural home field advantage of elevation, and the fact that they have a ton of home games remaining. Because unlike Boston, their schedule was built around stadium availability not really being a thing until the second half of the season.
Well, it's, in super small sample, let's not necessarily put a lot into this, but of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 home games that they've played up to now, they've only won 2 of them. So, and it was against Orlando and Portland, who are like softer opposition than the top 4, but they're not Louisville or Chicago or Houston or Bay or anything like that. So to what extent can they use elevation to their advantage? Like all of a sudden I started hearing a lot about elevation being a home field advantage for Utah, which are, 800 to 1,000 feet below Denver. But like until this season, it was never a thing. It was never a thing. And so, the weight of elevation being an advantage for them, I don't know how much stock I put on it relative to just the talent that they have available.
It is,
and by the way, the talent that they have available could be a playoff team.
Yeah. So the case in favor of like elevation is a huge advantage is just sort of historically over the course of looking at like seasons and seasons of NHL and NBA and NFL data. Yeah, the Rockies are their own thing in baseball, and so it gets an asterisk. But like I think all of those teams have had like demonstrably meaningful home field advantage, and a lot of that due to elevation. Whether that shows up for a middle of the table Denver side over a handful of fixtures, who knows?
Yeah, again, it's a small sample. So
like you would expect over time, Denver and to a lesser extent Utah, because it has been true for the Utah Jazz, to like show some reasonable amount of home field advantage that is elevation aided. That said, Denver has, Abby Smith, who is who's putting up an all-timer goalkeeper season, who is a prime candidate for small sample negative regression to something that looks a lot more like a normal goalkeeper. And even if it's to Abby Smith's, inconsistent because of health, but elevated all-time sort of status as a goalkeeper. I think there's like a reasonable argument to be made over the course of her career. She's a better than average shot stopper. If she comes back down to earth from this season, even a little bit, that also is like that can counteract your home field advantage.
Yeah, and Abby Smith,
immediately.
which, to borrow a phrase of our friend Jill Lloyden, it's not just the shot stopping, it's the shot prevention, because she's the best sweeper keeper in the league. Some might argue for Ann-Katrin Berger in the mix, but like she is either the best or one of the two best at preventing shots from even happening by her defensive actions in and around the box. That will be a huge boon to making sure that Denver's defensive mistakes, should they arise, and they have on occasion, not expose them. So between that and between Kusler trying to find some of that early season form again, I wouldn't be super surprised if they can pull it out, because they do have bit of the wind at their backs. I mean, their schedule strength for the rest of the year, all the home games are sort of balanced out by the fact that they're playing a lot of tough teams as well. So it's slightly easier than average, but it's not as extreme as some of the other teams' schedules look for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and again, this is where so my apprehension with some of this comes down to, even if Abby Smith is, still great and still preventing a lot of shots, she has Ava Gaetino in front of her, who's been like on performance by NetG+, one of the worst defenders to be playing a lot of minutes this season. Kaylee Kurtz is having either an age-related slowdown or an uncharacteristically mid-season for herself.
Yeah. Or is being forced to do a lot of mop-up work next to Gaetino, which is straining,
which is
her abilities.
Io, who looks like incredible in attack, does not produced that same quality necessarily in defense. And Janine Sonis is also not like the most defensively resolute version of herself either. And so it really, like, for me, comes down to, I've always been the low person on Kusler, and I'll continue to be the low person on Kusler because she's really bad at generating her own shots.
Yeah, I was too. I mean, we were in agreement on that in preseason, and she just happened to turn some things around for the first half. Like, maybe in defense of that initial preseason position, she has come back down to earth, and at times has lost her place in the 11.
Yep. Yeah, I think that she cannot. She's a passing black hole.
It's a lot of offside. I mean, a lot of that is the offside stuff, which G+ for some reason tags your passing value for that.
But also, she doesn't have a lot in the middle of the park around her. And now that Lindsey Horan is there, Lindsey Horan needs to be doing like huge amounts of work to unlock Melissa Kusler. What I've seen in Kusler is just a player who, like, the league didn't have tape on, and now the league has a little bit of tape on and understands that she is a huge physical unit that you need to deal with and take out of the game. But yeah, I sort of, my apprehension about Denver remains the same, and yet they're very much in it here.
So between Seattle's soft schedule, Angel City's mild talented advantage, but really tough schedule,
and potential not talent advantage if Svantis is done.
Exactly. And Denver's sort of mishmash of advantages and disadvantages, like, what's your gut tell you? Who's over the line here?
This is where I always go down to, what are they doing in the last 2 weeks of the season? Like,
because it'll probably come down to that.
Yeah, because if these teams, I mean, like, the great news is, if these teams are all within a fixture or a couple of points of each other, we might have a fantastic decision day.
Yeah, for sure.
That said, Denver, despite all of their home games, closes out their season. Where is this game?
Their final 2 weeks, they have Racing Louisville at home, and then the final day is North Carolina on the road. So that's also a push.
Yeah. But I mean, the October 17th fixture against Angel City is the big one. They have a 6-pointer in mid-September against Seattle. So the best thing that you can hope for in this kind of playoff race is that all of these teams get to play each other at least once.
Yeah.
Denver gets to play Angel City twice. So I kind of feel like I continue to not be wowed by Denver.
You want to hear something funny? For the small sample U.S. women's celebrity sickos out there, in 311 minutes, Lindsay Heaps is receiving G+ relative to other attacking midfielders per 96 minutes, 0.10, which is outstanding.
Yeah.
She's been really good across these first 3 games.
Yeah, get the ball to Lindsay is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Lindsay
her dribbling is a negative 0.06, but who's counting?
Yeah, once you get the ball to Lindsay, tell her to pass. Oh, again, we don't need to parse the Lindsay noise just yet. I think you and I have both seen better receiving scores over 3-game periods that have not materialized into excellent play. That said, yeah, like if you want to take that and say that Lindsay Horan is like the pivotal character in whether this team gets over the line, I don't have a lot of pushback there. I think that's probably not crazy if you needed to pinpoint a single player. I think if you were going to pinpoint a single player in Angel City, it would be Svaindis, and that's terrifying. And in the absence of Svaindis, you'd put it on Ali Sentner, and that's also terrifying. And if you're going to go put it on Seattle, the pivotal player is probably some version of Claudia Dickey and or Maddie Dahlin. And both of them look like they've taken, Claudia Dickey's already great, and Maddie Dahlin looks like she's taken a legitimate evolutionary step and is like putting up the kind of numbers that will make her very difficult to overlook for the World Cup or for Emma Hayes in a system that is not designed for her to like be great. So this is like a classic stay away bet because I do not have anywhere near the confidence in any of these teams.
Yeah, because none of them have the points in the bank to separate themselves. The one team that is like slightly got the edge has been terrible up to now, but they're the ones who have the gentlest downhill slope for the next 16 games. Meanwhile, the best team has the hardest schedule, but also might be losing their star. And the wild card has the fewest points in the bank, but barely. Maybe has just enough extra attacking juice in the number 10 now to play off the rest of the forwards that they could do it. I agree. This is one of those years, man, where like that final slot. I mean, these final slots are always tricky. And I think we always, when we do these episodes, talk about them as such. But this one's a weird one. So I think maybe for me personally, I'll put my stock in the schedule and how that can also be mixed with luck and say that Seattle like gets over on the final day.
And I feel like Seattle closes out against, it's not a crazy closeout.
Their final 2 games are Utah on the road and Orlando at home. So again,
so their final 2 games are challenging and also potentially a 6-pointer for the playoffs, because in this discussion we have left out Orlando, and probably with good reason. They are the furthest outside of this for us, but also like I don't want to bet against Barbara Banda ever.
If Banda stays healthy, and again, the bounces go your way, and we really can't stress enough, luck is probably going to be the ultimate determining factor here. Orlando could sneak in, no question.
If you ask me to rank them right now, obviously, okay, so we've got North Carolina in, whether they're 6 or 7. But if we're going to go, and let's throw Orlando in the mix here.
Okay.
If you're going to go 8, 9, 10, 11, I think I'm probably going, God, I'd love a Svaindis update.
Yeah, this is the thing.
And by the way, this may all be amended by the time we release this, that we may know the severity of Svaindis' injury. But I think it's worth stating that, like, even whatever Svaindis' injury is listed as, unless it's an SEI and they put her on the list,
you're getting something out of her.
Yeah, well, it's still like a timetable that will be unclear because she could be ahead of schedule or behind schedule or just hit it. 8 will go. I just don't think Seattle gets it done. I don't care about this.
Yeah, the more that I said it, and then I immediately regretted it.
Like I don't get ahead of look, Seattle always gets it done in these kind. Like it's been a hallmark of Laura Harvey, like beats death, and like that's been the story. No, I mean it didn't happen last year, but like she finally has a team that has like interesting attacking pieces and that occasionally demonstrates them. Is this a better Seattle team than existed last year? Yeah, for sure. And yet that doesn't fill me with confidence. Which mess would I like the best? I'd least like Orlando's problem of being bandit dependent and everything else not really working. And also my defense falling apart. I'd second least like Angel City's uncertainty. But if it breaks the right direction and Svaindis doesn't really miss any time, they're definitely the pick for me. I, in theory, like Denver's home field advantage and the addition of Lindsay Heaps being meaningful. But I also watched them just give up a goalkeeper assist. It's anecdotal, but like that's a no-no. And I also don't love that this is a 30-game season and that Denver is among the oldest teams in this mix.
Right, which is also points off of Orlando too.
Yeah. So Seattle being young, Seattle being kind of miserable, but also with an easy schedule. I think it's like if Svaindis can play 60% plus of the minutes remaining this season, it's Angel City, and if not, it's Seattle for me.
I agree with that. I think that's the right way to look at it. And again, to be clear, like if Denver is the one to do it and become the third ever expansion team to make the playoffs in their first year,
not crazy.
Wouldn't be crazy.
Yeah. If I were like handicapping this right now, I'd say that for that final playoff spot, if we assume that North Carolina's locked in, for that final playoff spot, I'm probably going like 30% Seattle, 25% Angel City, 25% Denver, 20% Orlando. Like it's close. It's a real coin flip, and it's what these teams, frankly, it's what these teams do in their matchups against each other that will clean this up really quickly.
Again,
or can.
Circle your calendars, October 17th, 2026. Angel City versus Denver.
And also Sunday. Angel City versus Seattle. It's a big game.
Yeah. I don't have the percentages in front of me for the ASA model, but if we're just looking at percentages, Angel City by Larner Elo, 54% to make the playoffs, Seattle 47%, Denver 25%, Orlando 19%.
Mm-hmm. And they'd look different if we locked North Carolina in here, because North Carolina is not at 100, nor is Portland. So there are like versions of that model where like one of those two teams collapses or both of them collapse. But yeah, if we go with the sort of educated guess that both of those teams have done enough and are good enough and are frankly better than these teams below them on some level, and this is our final four, yeah, it's really close.
Again, the Svaindis question: if yay, Angel City; if nay, Seattle.
Also, like the transfer window is not closed,
right?
So
it's a whole other thing.
If you can figure out how to materially improve your team, Angel City certainly has roster spots. Whether they have money to do anything with them is a different question. Yeah, it's open. I'm just like, let's pull up our preseason predictions, because this is like a good time to check in on this.
I said Angel City would finish in 8th, and you said San Diego would finish in 8th.
Where did you have San Diego?
I had San Diego 11th.
Oh boy, we're gonna
need a lot of shit on that one.
Between Utah and San Diego, we took two big ol' hacks.
And the Larner model pinned Portland to finish 8th preseason, and ASA pinned San Diego to finish 8th preseason.
Yeah, so I think the guys in guest, Evan and I both had Seattle 9th, so bully for us. We're not going to be that far off. I had Angel City 10th. Evan had them 8th.
Denver, I was 12. You were 13.
Mm-hmm.
And then Orlando, I was 5th. You were 7th.
Yeah.
So Angel City and Seattle are the two where like our preseason predictions are probably going to come in the closest of those four clubs.
Yeah. And also just Orlando is just, Jackie Ovalle is not proven to be like much beyond a sort of bang average NWSL player, which makes that transfer fee.
I saw a little bit of chatter being like, oh, it's because of coaching and not knowing how to use her properly. And like, guys, Jackie Ovalle is good, but Liga MX Femenil is a really bad league. Like, you compare it to the NWSL. Like, it's very easy to look incredible as an attacker in that league.
Yeah.
So
Also,
don't use that as your baseline.
Also, if Jackie Ovalle like has a good 2027, I won't be surprised. Like
Sure.
there is a betting in period that is required, and she's played shockingly few minutes with Barbara Banda.
Yeah, we know they're raw talent.
Yeah. Let's talk about, obviously, let's close with like I'm seeing like a lot of Seb Hines hot seat chatter, or like that's a thing because like Orlando's. I just don't think you fire Seb Hines.
That's not the problem.
It's just not the problem.
Like if you're listing out like the most severe issues or causes for Orlando's free fall, Seb Hines isn't even in the top 5.
Yeah, of these teams that we've sort of put in this 4-team race for 8, I think Seb Hines is the best coach, at least over the past couple of years. Laura Harvey obviously has a legacy, but also we could do an entire pod on sort of what Laura Harvey is and has become, her evolution, arguably her villain arc. Angel City doesn't seem to ever matter, and I don't think it matters now. What their manager is, they are what they are.
Yeah, because again, managers generally don't matter, especially when you like try to put it in the spectrum of things that create these kinds of results. Like Seb Hines didn't suddenly become a bad coach from 2024 to now. It's that like Orlando hasn't really bolstered their roster except for the Ovalle transfer. And this year, you'll lose Kylie Nadanner for the entire year. You lose Carrie Abello for a good chunk of it. You lose Haley Mace for a good chunk of it. You lose Raffaele for a little bit of it. You lose
Emily Sams to Angel City.
And you lose Emily Sams to Angel City. You lose Jackie Ovalle for a large chunk. You lose Barbara Banda for a large chunk. Like, need I go on? Like, when have you had your optimal 11 on the field at the same time?
Oh, yeah. And Marta's getting older.
Yeah, like, I don't know how much, just don't know how much tactical adjustment you can really apply to the players you have on hand when these are the players you have on hand.
Yeah. And, I saw a Nick Cushing quote that was basically like, I'm not used to losing.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he's getting very frustrated at it. And the reason Denver is losing can be discovered, but it's just a question of whether he's interested in looking at it. But even he's done a perfectly serviceable job.
Yeah. You've got the phone numbers of the 2 men you could call right now to address the actual cause of all of these issues. Man,
Does Nick Cushing have our phone numbers?
Yeah. Hello, Kurt Johnson speaking.
That's right.
Yeah, and like Mark Wilf and Caitlin Carducci are not prepared to go beyond the side that won.
This year, Orlando could reasonably look at this as a pivot season, while still in a plan to like get the most out of peak Banda years, and just missing the playoffs wouldn't be like some problem in a transitional season for them.
It's just like between family leave and injuries, your roster's just been decimated, and to varying degrees throughout the season. But it's just never been the roster that you want. And so, yeah, 5-0 to North Carolina. This is who you are, and I don't see it getting better. So, with any luck, they'll turn things around, but we don't think that's going to happen.
All right. Anything else?
Anyway, thanks for listening to this episode of Expected Own Goals. Do all the things you're supposed to do with podcasts. Rate us 5 stars. Drop us a kind review in your podcatcher of choice. Tell all your friends about us. Follow us on social media at XOwnGoals. That's the letter X Own Goals. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We are rolling out tons of exclusive video content, including Anatomy of Season 2, which is very cool. We're going to add another dimension to that, I believe, this week, which you will see hopefully in your feeds. If you believe we've made an own goal, please email us at xog@xowngoals.com. That's the letter XOG at the letter xowngoals.com.
Good stuff.